Good afternoon, my friends. We are back, and I apologize for this dreadful, unexpected interruption. Basically, for the second day in a row, we're experiencing some problems with our developers, with the game providers. Out of the blue, there is a reset. Everything is dead. We can't stream, and it's just the usual. I need to really resort to another game. Perhaps Stellaris will be the best option where we are not expecting any resets, or maybe I'll just do Mass Effect for every one of my podcasts. Anyway, we were talking to Tyler early on. Hope Tyler rejoined us. Hopefully Tyler is still there, and I will be telling you a bit more about Empire of Sin, because really yesterday we had a lengthy discussion on Bethesda and Microsoft and all that came our way last week through the acquisition of Bethesda by Microsoft. All the games that were included, 20 games so far, and then reworkings of the frame rate, the remasters and updates and everything else. So I'm really getting my teeth into this, and just like everything else, this channel is absolutely aligned with our community, and I really want to be both presenting you with the highest quality content as well as with the reflection of what's happening in video game industry overall. And I think we're becoming a bit more aligned to Xbox and Game Pass compared to the old, where we were doing everything on PlayStation. And times have changed. 4 or 5 years ago, PS Now services were superior to Xbox Game Pass, but today the tables have turned, and we have many games entering the Microsoft streaming services, which include obviously all the ones I mentioned from Bethesda, and then we had EA Play also included. We just heard that there is a possibility for extra games to be thrown in from EA, and very excited about this. There'll be more titles coming our way. We heard about a possibility of some of the Ubisoft titles coming in, although this is a rumor as yet not confirmed, and the latest was the potential acquisition of Discord by Microsoft for $10 billion, which again is a rumor, but I think there's certainly a possibility to be looking at the new system of interactivity being fully integrated within what Xbox is already offering on the streaming platform, and they don't have a system which would be like WhatsApp or Skype fully integrated on the console, and I think Discord probably would be one of these, and we need to wait and see in order to get a clear confirmation. So yesterday, after looking at the Doom series and Dishonored, I went to and also Star Wars Squadrons, I have to say, which were not part of Bethesda. I went to the game I really want to play for some time, the tactical real-time strategy turn-based game called Empire of Sin, and I'm sure you're very familiar. I already talked about it in this podcast before I got cut off, before the interruption took place, and we'll just look at some of the ins and outs of the game as it stands today. So Empire of Sin is a strategy video game and also an RPG, role-playing video game developed by Romero Games and published by Paradox Interactive. Paradox also is the publisher of this wonderful game, Stellaris, that we have on our screen at the moment. It's released on December the 1st of 2020, so it's been around for just over 3 months, and it's been released across all platforms: Microsoft Windows, Apple Mac, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. In the game, the player takes the role of one of several mob bosses, and these are inspired by real-life figures in Chicago during the Prohibition era of 1920s. The player uses their boss to control the actions of the underlinings, to take over the opponent's businesses and recruit new members to the cause, while defending their own empire from the other bosses. So we have quite a few people involved with the game, and let's see what really they told us about the actual gameplay. So this game, Empire of Sin, plays a real-time strategy game with the player taking the role of a crime boss in the Prohibition era, starting anew in 1920 and trying to gain control of Chicago by 1933. So in fact, as you carry on, you will see both the time and dates on the top of your screen, so it's almost like happening in real time. As the boss, they can enlist up to 16 underlinings from 60 potential ones, sorry, I read this wrongly. They can enlist up to 16 various characters from 60 potential ones and manage the empire of questionable businesses, such as speakeasies, casinos and brothels, protecting them from the law and rival mafia gangs while trying to extend their own influence by taking over others. So the game uses alcohol as a type of currency to extend the empire's influence. Alcohol can be made by breweries under players' control, given to the players by allies, or rewarded as part of completing various missions. The quality of alcohol can impact its influence, and poor quality alcohol can be made cheaply and initially sold at a high profit, but over time will lose its value. So if you are doing it and peddling it, you need to make sure that first of all you have security, you need to have very good production, high quality alcohol, and you need to have storage, because poor quality storage will affect its quality. Taking over another business may involve direct combat, during which the game enters a turn-based strategy game similar to XCOM. It's almost identical. XCOM had a very advanced turn-based strategy, in-game mechanics, and the same thing's been imported in here. It looks perfect and it works beautifully well. And also can occur through other persuasive means, including short-term alliances with other gangs to defeat a common foe. Combat and other situations are impacted by various traits and perks the characters have, may cause them to act differently with the hair trigger, may cause them to act differently from the player's orders. For example, a character with a hair trigger trait may fire the weapon rather than moving to cover when ordered. These traits can change over the course of a game. An underlining what is this? I just can't read properly anymore. An accomplice may become more accustomed to solving problems through violent means the more they are put in such conditions. For example, controlling more territory gives the gang boss more funds to better arm their accomplices or to recruit new members. So the game is particularly roguelike in nature, as the businesses on the game's map relocate each playthrough, and new characters are generated. New characters are generated with different perks each time. Some have compared Empire of Sin as a successor to the 99 game Mob Rule. I remember that game Mob Rule and not played it, so maybe worth revisiting through Golden Old Games. Nevertheless, Empire of Sin is very advanced on the visual side, and you will definitely enjoy the cutscenes, graphics, the dialogue and everything else. It's a perfect blend of RPG and real-time strategy, the best one I've seen so far. Empire of Sin was developed by the wife and husband from Brenda and John Romero of Romero Games, with Brenda as the lead designer. According to John, Brenda's past game development history, which included the Wizardry video game series and board games based on historical scenarios, have given great insights into role-playing games and creating gameplay systems that focused on character interactions. The Prohibition era ideas behind Empire of Sin had been something she wanted to do for 20 years. This led to the pair seeking Paradox Interactive as the publishing partner, given that Paradox is well known for historical simulation games. And the game was first revealed as part of Nintendo's Direct presentation E3 2019, so it's a couple of years ago, and then it was released on Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch. While its initial release was planned for the second quarter of 2020, Romero Games announced the game would be delayed until December the 1st in order to get some additional polish. Very well received by many online hubs. We've seen the reviews coming in like 7 and 8 out of 10, and I think generally we can be very happy with everything seen so far. I think there is some issue of that slight lag on the controls and commands that you get on console, but I'm sure as we carry on this will be of less significance. It doesn't really matter too much because it may take a bit of time to you need to sometimes try certain things a couple of times, but it didn't really affect the gameplay or my overall enjoyment of it at all. So that certainly is a wonderful game, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, not here on my broadcast but obviously outside of my streaming hours, and it's been a true joy to get introduced to it yesterday. So I really 10 out of 10, I really waited for quite a while for the game to be accessible to me, and I thought maybe we'll get it on free play days, and now we got it in full on Xbox Game Pass. So anyone who's interested, you can just simply click the button, download the game and crack on. Another game that I'm thoroughly enjoying, and this is all on recommendation of Xbox's Jeff Rubinstein. He talked extensively about the Yakuza series, and he really has been the biggest, the greatest supporter amongst the AAA level presenters of the series. And I've heard about the game a long time ago, and I've looked at it on PlayStation now as well as on some of the free play days on Xbox, but never really got into it and never paid enough attention to all the Yakuza was offering. But the fact is, the series needs to be played chronologically in order for you to grow with the game, and this is what Jeff really talked about at length. He said, well, when you start out on Yakuza 3, you'll find advancements in Yakuza 4, you'll discover some of the old characters, and then Yakuza 5. And recently, Xbox also released the Yakuza Trilogy Remastered collection, incidentally also downloadable and instantly available through Xbox Game Pass. So what I did was I just simply wanted to see what the game was actually like, and instead of downloading it, because I have many games now on my Xbox, I've gone to the PS Now, because they can, PS Now services give you the ability to stream immediately. Every single game that is on the list is streamable immediately through the console. You don't have to download. The quality of these games when streamed is not always the best, and you need to judge basically on game per game basis, so to speak, and you will need to decide whether eventually you want to download. You can't download more than half the games on PS Now, which is a serious bother. It's a serious thumbs down, really, as far as I'm concerned. But in order for a reviewer or a writer to be able to get a flavor of a game, it's excellent that you can just click on Stream Now and you can try it similar to what you do on YouTube or Twitch, and that's exactly what I did. So incidentally, it's the Xbox team that been recommending me the game, and then I did it, or I tried it on PlayStation. But the fact is, this game was originally published on PlayStation before its inclusion through Microsoft Store, and also the first few episodes do not have dubbing. They're in Japanese, so that you have subtitles, and incredibly popular in Japan. It's like one of the most popular series of all times. So very, very interested to find out what the game was like. I went in the day before yesterday, and again, similar to Empire of Sin, as soon as you enter the world, it's the story, it's the atmosphere, it's the dialogue, it's everything. And initially I thought Yakuza was more inclined towards fighting, like the fighting RPGs, but that's absolutely not the case with Episode 4, which I looked at, the game that I'm presently playing as well. The game is resemblant of a television series. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of cutscenes, there's a huge narrative with loads of different characters coming in, different factions, different enemies, and different activities in Tokyo, and everything blends in perfectly. And fighting sequences are really enjoyable, and you can really decide on the difficulty level accordingly. You can choose to play very easy or very hard, depending on what you like. And generally, when I have my first gameplay on the games that are very rich on the story-based content, I always go for the easiest, because the emphasis will be entirely on the story and the dialogue, and a lot less on fighting. Once you've gone through it, you can always go back and play it on much harder difficulty levels. You know the story, and you're no longer bothered. Sometimes I find if you were to be doing a first run on, let's say, insane difficulty level, then your mind just switches from wanting to get to know the characters, wanting to soak up all the detail, to, well, I need to win, and you basically miss out on lots of important data. So Yakuza 4 is basically a game which is also called Hepburn Ryuga Gotoku for Denetsu wo Tsugomonu, like a Dragon 4 successor to the legend. So it was a video game developed and released by Sega for the PlayStation 3, and the game was introduced on July the 24th of 2009, so it's quite a while back. A promotional video was presented at the 2009 Tokyo Game Show, and this was the sequel to Yakuza 3. It was released on March the 18th of 2010 in Japan, after a playable demo was released on the Japanese PlayStation Store on March the 5th. Yakuza 4 was released in Europe and North America in March of 2011. Yun Orihara was the director, Masayoshi Kikuchi was the producer. Programmer was Koji Tokida. Artists were supervised by Kazuki Hosokawa. Writer was Masayoshi Yokoyama. Composer was the very well-known Japanese soundtrack musician and author Hidenori Shoji, and the series was belonging to Yakuza. So originally released on PlayStation 3, later incorporated with PlayStation 4, Microsoft Windows and Xbox One. And the inclusion on Windows Xbox One was only very recent. It was on January 28, 2021, so nobody could really access it previously on Xbox, I believe. I'm not sure really. I thought I've seen Yakuza 4 there before, but maybe it was Yakuza 3 or maybe 5. It's lots of different installments of Yakuza, and I think Xbox team went for the latest installments because they're state-of-the-art graphics and very complex games, and then they brought in the golden oldies as well. So this was the first Yakuza game that did not feature the involvement of the current series producer and one of the members involved since the very first game, Daisuke Sato. So sequel Yakuza 5 was released in 2012. Remaster was released on PlayStation 4 on January the 17th, 2019 in Japan, and worldwide on October the 29th of 2019 as part of the Yakuza Remastered collection. So that is the collection I referred to earlier, accessible now on Xbox Game Pass immediately. And versions for Microsoft Windows and Xbox One were released in January 21. And well, if you are on Xbox Game Pass, I believe you will be able to download it to your PC. Because Hiroki Narimiya retired from acting due to allegations of drug use, the role of Tanimura was recast with Toshiki Masuda taking over. So let's see what the gameplay is like. The available mini-games are pachinko, fishing, onsen, table tennis, hanafuda and karaoke, including duets with non-player characters. In Haruka's Wish, the player must raise Haruka's trust level. Each main character has a side game or goal which must be completed, and many side games are related to trophies. So there's really loads of activities. I remember Jeff saying he loved the idea of karaoke and doing it together with various NPCs, and I really look forward to that myself. I've not gone this far. And it's just a game with a massive open world with lots of different corners and plenty of areas to explore. And you can walk the streets, talk to different characters, go to different shops. And what's important with Yakuza 4 is that it is very story driven, and if you are trying to jump the gun, then the game will not allow you to talk to certain characters or to get certain loot. You have to come back there later, but you register as you went into a shop or a warehouse. You registered what was there, and this is how you build your knowledge and experience of the open world. So Akiyama may create friendship with some NPCs by buying them items, or with some storekeepers by being a regular customer. His other mission, create a hostess, is to scout girls for the cabaret he owns. A girl is improved by dressing her up and training her. After she becomes number 1, the player can choose a final outfit for her, and she will appear at the cabaret. So just my kind of thing. Similar challenge in the Japanese version of Yakuza 3 was cut from overseas versions. Don't know why. I certainly hope that the version I'm playing is going to have everything in it. If not, I'll have to go to Xbox or even to the Japanese version, because this sounds really very appealing. Sajima's mission, create a fighter, is to train fighters to win tournaments after 50 rounds or less of training. Different move sets allow different moves to be performed. Tanimura's mission, resolving police radio disputes, is to keep the peace on the streets of Kamurocho. Radio reports tell him where to find incidents, and the player must defeat the perpetrator. In Kiryo's mission, counter battle 7 gangs, attack him, and they must fight each other from each gang leader. Each character has his own style of fighting and special moves, as their body frames are different. Kiryu focuses on the powerful blows of karate and boxing. Akiyama prefers swift attacks, doing taekwondo. Sejima favors powerful and slow brawling and grappling attacks, using wrestling. Tanimura uses the defensive maneuvers of Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu that he learned from the same time at the police academy. So we'll have a look at the story very briefly. Yakuza 4 takes place 1 year after the events of Yakuza 3, and like the original game, most of the action takes place in Kamurocho, which resembles Shinjuku's red light district, Kabukicho. 3 locations have been added since Yakuza 3, a rooftop area stretching across a large portion of the town, the back streets of Kamurocho, known as Rojura, and a third area known as Underground, or Chika, which includes the city sewers, parking lot, and shopping arcades. The underground area is also known as Kamuchika, short for Kamura Chika, Kamura Underground. Characters. Yakuza 4 has 3 new protagonists in addition to Yazuma Kiryu, the main character since the original Yakuza game, Masayoshi Tanimura, Shun Akiyama, and Taiga Sajima. Other new characters include Juni Suguichi, a Tokyo Metropolitan Police detective, Hiroaki Arai, Tojo Clan Yakuza Selshiro Munakata, a high-ranking police officer and a woman, Lily, and returning characters are Haruka Sawamura, Goro Mayama, Makoto Date, Daigo Dojima, and Go Hamazaki. So I think the game starts with loan shark Shun Akiyama dropping in to visit Hiroshi Kanemura, an aging Yakuza patriarch, learning that 2 members of the Ueno Seiva clan, an organization once in the midst of a power struggle with the Tojo clan in 1956, in 1905 are causing a disturbance at a nearby club. Hoping to prevent the incident, Akiyama beats up the 2 men just as Hiroyaki Arai and his friend Takeshi Kido show. One of the men, Masaru Ihara, then shoots Arai and flees, and the story just carries on from that. That's what I did, but also I kind of carried on with some other activities, and very, very curious how everything will develop. The theme song to the Japanese version played during the introduction video when starting the game is a beautiful song called Butterfly City by Japanese hip-hop artist Zebra, featuring Ryo and Skywalker and Mami D, and music by DJ Hasebi, also known as Old Nick. The music video, posted on Ariola Japan's YouTube channel, disclosed that R&B singer Double contributed vocals to the song. The CD was released Ariola Japan on March the 17th, and in 2010 in a regular edition, and a first press limited edition inclusive of a bonus video DVD, and with an alternate cover with Kiryu, Zebra's first contributor to the series, with Ryuga Gotoku opening theme Bushido. So let's see, reception was generally very, very good, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, and it received mostly positive reviews from critics. Received an award for excellence at the 2010 Japan Award Games, scored 38 out of 40 from Famitsu. The list just goes on and on. The sequel, which is Yakuza 5, was released on the August 31st of 2019, and 2 new Yakuza games were announced, Yakuza 5 and a sequel to the PSP game, Yurohyo 2. So Yakuza 5 was released in Japan on December the 6th of 2012, and released worldwide release on December the 8th, 2015 as a PlayStation Network download. Well, these are the games that indeed I'm absolutely beautifully enjoying on Xbox and PlayStation, and both games available through our streaming services. So, I mean, I cannot recommend these games highly enough. They're just really absolutely astounding, and everything I've seen in them is kind of activity that will grab me. I really want to spend more time on the characters and the story, and that's exactly what I have been doing. So I'd like to invite you to do the same, and most importantly, I keep coming back to this again and again. Just bear with me, I need to grab just a hot drink. I'll carry on very shortly. I keep saying to everyone, every one of you in our community in here, if you're serious gamers, you've got to subscribe to these streaming services on Xbox and PlayStation. You've got to be able to enjoy all that is on offer, even if you're not playing every single game. You know, you have 1400 games you know, on your fingertips, and it's just absolutely incredible that so many AAA blockbusters and indie games and rare sort of Asian RPGs can be accessed with such ease. It's incredible, because I remember even 10 years ago going to several shops in London and looking for some of these rare games, couldn't find them anywhere. And today I'm at home in London suburbs, far away from these shops, and I can simply access all of those streaming services. I think Xbox Game Pass is a no-brainer. You get all the internet-based services within one single subscription price, $10.99 for us in Britain, and you get your Xbox Live Gold services for free. You get access to the Game Pass, more than 400 games presently, instantly downloadable and accessible. Loads of new games coming in almost every single day. And in addition to that, you have also the extra service to which you can download some of the games to your PC. And many services, many games in there are also accessible through the xCloud, the new service that Microsoft offer, and presently still in its kind of beta presentation stage, but we can all get to play some of the games on our tablets and phones, and you know, particularly the games like platformers are absolutely ideal for this. And for many of them, you do not even need your controller. So make sure you subscribe. If you really are an enthusiast, you will learn so much about video gaming through the games you can access on these services. And most importantly, you need to connect with the broadcasts that they run. You know, Jeff and Larry on the regular podcasts, which are on Xbox YouTube channel, and then you have This Week on Xbox, and you have you know, the trailers and developer diaries which offer to the channel. So all of those combined will give you really a very, very good picture. But you can also watch presentations done by the teams of Games Radar and Eurogamer and Digital Foundry. You know, they have really fantastically well done reviews in a very kind of crisp, solidly built video format, where you'll get to know a lot about the history of each game, and you will get to know a lot about the people who worked on Fallouts and Destinies of this world, as well as to get some interesting information on the tech side of things and reviews and everything else. So most highly recommend it. So you know, you see it as a package. You know, you watch the news there, you get to know more about the games, watch the trailers, listen to the recommendations of you know, Jeff and Larry's, and then you can try some of the games on the Game Pass. I've kind of established a new system now, in fact, because I was getting completely snowed under with the number of titles and everything else that was popping up, and I have now a list which is taken directly from either Xbox Wire or from Twitter, and then I select a number of games that were released during a particular week or on a specific day, put them in my diary, which is on my phone, and then I jot down also the titles in the notebook, which is a notebook called the games to play. And the new policy is, instead of keeping some games indefinitely on my hard drive, I'll be looking for the new inclusions, for the new introductions, and I want to download them immediately as soon as they're introduced. I will try to introduce them here to my channel. Therefore, it'll become part of DRBMiller Introducing, and then in addition to this, we'll stream very many, and I'll play some of them, because I want to be kept fully abreast. And you know, it saddens me to see that a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, which they offered last summer, didn't last very long. It was about, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 90 days. And I got in towards the end because I thought, for whatever reason, that the game will last until Christmas. And therefore, as they pulled the plug on the game, obviously they had a contract with Rockstar that was, I guess, fairly solid and determining that the game was to disappear on a particular date. Then I wasn't able to finish it. And the game was offered on a good discount, but still, you know, in my book, it was still pricey after its departure from the Game Pass, and therefore I did not purchase it. So still a game that I played very extensively, played it a lot and streamed it here on my channel, enjoyed it tremendously. Still have not finished it. I'm still waiting for the game to be either included here on the streaming services or indeed to be offered on a kind of good price. If it comes about £10, then I'll purchase it straight away, but not pay like £30 for it, considering the game's been in circulation for quite some time. And you will be familiar with Rockstar's very unfriendly pricing strategies, and anyone who is a fan of GTA and LA Noire will tell you the prices never drop. LA Noire, incidentally, is not even backward compatible, which I find really ridiculous. And you've got to be purchasing it in its original digital format if you want to play it on next gen. And it's always priced between sort of £18 and £34, and I'm just a bit conservative when it comes to acquisitions overall, and I stick to my guns. Therefore, I have many thousands of games in my collection. I think it'd be impossible for me to have that many if I was purchasing everything on the day of its release. Alright, so let me think. What else do we have here for today? We have some questions. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for watching and supporting the podcast. Hope you're enjoying the introductions of those two wonderful games, Yakuza 4 and Empire of Sin. I'm introducing here in my podcast separately from what I do within the slot called DRBMiller Introducing, for the obvious reason I'm just doing them right now and I'm exploring these games. Generally, as this is a learning channel, from the beginning I was introducing lots of games with no prior knowledge of gameplay. I just start it on a game and I learn as I go along, and I bring in other people on Twitch to help me out. But I think as we kind of carried on, the expectation had sort of built up within our community that I actually need to know a bit more about certain games. And I think for Destiny or for Fallout it's not that important, because these games are community based and there'll be other veterans coming in helping out. But for the games like Stellaris or Empire of Sin, or the games which require a lot of thinking, planning, meticulous strategizing, then it's the best if one tries out a few things in advance, and then it's always great to replay. I mean, these games are so highly replayable, and just reminded of Joseph Fares the other day. He said, well, who wants to be bothered about replayability? You want to provide great content the last 40 hours, you always come back to it, because it's a fantastic story, they're great characters, wonderful animations, a lot of fun completing the activities, difficulty levels, and I think I don't really agree with him in full. It depends on what kind of model of gaming you're offering, because we have such a great variety. If you're looking at linear storytelling games, it's a huge danger that if the game is very short with beautiful graphics, that it will not have a lengthy shelf life. People may not want to revisit it, considering the abundance of content you get in games like Stellaris or Destiny, The Division 2, Fallout 76. But something for everyone. People have different preferences, and we had live on air here on my channel a number of people who said we're really not interested in Destinies and Fallout 76 because these games are too big. We do not have time to invest, and we find it a bit disconcerting if we were to pop in and then depart and we just lose thread, we don't know what's happening, and then that's about it. So I said, well, fair enough, but the idea is to have something for everyone. We want people to enjoy the games, to become part of that world, and I think certainly for myself, I have a natural tendency to gravitate towards the open world games, because it's all about that fantasy, massive big landscape, loads of corners. You're going to explore them, you're going to find out things which are hiding in there, and it provides me with a great opportunity which is similar to what I do when I, for instance, go and do mountain trekking. I'll go to a completely unknown area to me, exploring the nature, exploring what is out there, and I love that. And some people like straightforward activity like Warzone, one match, you need to have your knowledge and skill, and that's about it. They will not spend 2,000 hours on the exploration of Destiny universe, or trying out to eliminate PvP and PvE enemies in the Division Dark Zone. So it's just down to the personal preference, and I think it needs to be kept open. Enforcing one idea, one system is going to fail, because we are no longer at that stage of video game development where we were queuing up in order to get a physical copy, and it's just these times are long gone. It's all about interactivity, and we talked yesterday and the day before quite a bit in reference to some of the things that I picked up on Larius and Jeff's Xbox podcast from one of the associates who indicated that there were 4 different stages of game development, the latest of which is a game like Destiny or Fortnite or Warzone had become a social network in itself. And that's fascinating if you think about it. Warzone has been around for 1 year, and PUBG for 4 years, Apex for 2 years, and these games are social networks. Through YouTube and Twitch streams, they built a huge number of viewers and followers worldwide, and they meet every single day at the same time in order to communicate, to connect, to share their ideas and views. And I think this is probably the best time today in order to connect with some of our community members as well. I had a number of questions coming in during the last 24 hours, and I'm aware of the fact we've gone the other way today. We were looking at the community content and my online gaming activities, and we are now progressing to what came to me from our community. And the question from Sam, who is in NYC, really did kind of ring a bell for me. And he said, I've been indoors now for almost 10 months, and I'm finding it impossible to survive this ghastly, dreadful pandemic. But if there's one thing that really made my life worthwhile, this has been online gaming and online communities. And I absolutely loved playing Destiny and playing The Division with my community, and being able to meet with them every single day and share my thoughts and views and musings and ramblings about life and my fury and dissatisfaction with all that's happening in the US. And I really wanted to make sure that all of you streamers would know that I really love that. And he says then, I did watch some of your Destiny streams and thought they were remarkable. You had such a good community, fully on board. And I also saw that you streamed Warzone of late. He says, I'm wondering, how did you find the community on the global level? Because a lot of people that I play with are all based in the US. How does this work if you are based in London and your members are coming from everywhere, as I've seen in your Warzone streams? Well, Sam, this is a wonderful, wonderful feedback, and thank you for that, and thank you for the question and for your thoughts and views on what is really quite an extraordinary experience for us all, really, during our recent times. And I'll try to elaborate on this step by step. So first of all, you've heard from Sam that he has been, first of all, delighted and elated through online gaming, because he felt online gaming and being able to connect with his communities were keeping him alive throughout this dreadful, dreadful period of pandemic. And he was talking, connecting, and playing the game with his own community. But I don't really know whether Sam is a streamer or whether he plays games together with his mates and then he watches other people's streams. I've got no indication in his message whether he does it or not. And if you're watching or listening to my podcast, Sam, send us another message telling us whether you also stream, because I would be quite interested in hooking up and maybe running an online session together with you. We can just have a brainstorm and freely associate about all that we experienced in the last 30 months. But most importantly, Sam was also telling us that the communication online, the fact we were able to connect, first of all, with our interest in one particular game, one universe, let's say Destiny, was a stepping stone. It was a stepping stone towards, first of all, us having some fun, joy, entertainment, elation, energy. Secondly, it was connecting us with other people so we can talk, communicate, share our thoughts and views. And thirdly, it was connecting us with the overall community, because each one of our participants, squad mates, will have their mates, and they will come in and step in to help with certain activities, and they'll become a member of the overall community, whether it is on Twitch or YouTube, or whether it's just a small community on Xbox or PlayStation for people who are connected every single day. And I certainly can say for myself, because you asked me, Sam, about my experience. Well, I streamed several big AAA blockbusters in here. Destiny has been the biggest and the kind of the game that this channel was built on. So it's Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, and obviously I've heard you watch my Destiny 1 streams and you love that community, which is very international, and you would have seen that the vast majority of people in there came from everywhere. So they also came from different parts of the world, and they played the game on separate platforms. It didn't really matter at all whether they were on a PC or Xbox or PlayStation. They all played the game, they all knew it, and they all came in order to talk about their passion for the game, about certain activities. And then once they became more at home with our community, once they connected with others, there was a lot of discussion and talk on other topics, like how to survive the pandemic, what are we doing at the moment, what's happening downtown Houston, Texas, what's going on in Paris, what's life like in Amsterdam, and similar to what our friend Myla from Sweden said, he stopped watching Sky News and he's just talking to his friends, because his friends are in Northern European countries. He gets his news from them, that he hears firsthand what's happening in Germany, what's happening in Netherlands, what's going on in France. And it's quite extraordinary because it is almost like a parallel world which is reflecting all that's happening in our local community. We're all indoors, we're all staying at home, we're all trying to protect ourselves and our loved ones, but we're also connecting with others through our sphere of interest, which is in a video game, and we're connecting through these communities. So it's been a wonderful experience. And I've got to tell you, if we will look back, if we go back like, let's say 13 months, we go back to beginning of March of last year, I had a very busy period of 3 months. There were several games launched, and one of the big ones was Warzone, so there was a lot of excitement about it, the first Battle Royale within Call of Duty, and of course the game was launched just before we had the lockdown fully introduced in here. Maybe it was about 2 or 3 days in between, and I think my first experience of it was that people got very scared of the lockdown, and most importantly got very scared of the disease, because in Britain within 4 weeks we had an enormous number of people dying quickly, suddenly, and they couldn't be helped. So once the lockdown was introduced, it was incredibly tightly enforced, and I've gone out at night after 11 o'clock to my local park, and as soon as I was out I was being chased by the police, and what are you doing there, why are you out, why are you not at home, and all this, which is unprecedented in Britain. We've seen that situation during the war years, 1939 to 1945. We've seen it in Northern Ireland, of course, for quite a few years. But in England, it's not been seen since May of 1945, and everyone was shocked and petrified that this was indeed happening to us. But we were entering a battle, a war against an invisible enemy, and it is a warlike situation where the enemy, certainly during the first couple of months, was winning, and there were huge numbers of people here dying, and even many more surviving the disease with huge health problems afterwards, and collateral on an unprecedented scale. So I thought certainly in March, maybe April and May, I found the overall Twitch activity on my channel to be dropping. People who were otherwise in Destiny were not popping in, and I wondered really what the reason for this was. And I worked out at a later stage, after I talked to them 6-8 months later, that many people discontinued with their subscription services and internet connection and all this, because they were worried about not being able to pay the bills. And that really was very present in the US, not as much over here on the continent, but say in Europe, because we are not on the continent, just make that very clear. Get some other people finding me later saying, what are you talking about? We are not on the continent. We are not on the continent. Of course we're not. I want to make sure that we made that perfectly clear. But a lot of people in the US were very worried about not being able to pay the bills, because losses of jobs and pandemic, people staying at home, and etc., etc. And then as we went through the summer, then the activity became more and more hectic. And I think after about 2 or 3 months, the vast majority of people had accepted the sheer fact that we are to be in a lockdown of some shape and form for quite some time, and we need to adhere to all the rules. So at that point, people who were otherwise scared, petrified, maybe trying to really reduce the bills and maybe not playing the games as much because they just watch the news, they want to find out what's going on in there, they came back. And I certainly can say that with Destiny, with Apex, with PUBG, and then most importantly later in the year with Warzone, that's probably from about late August, September, things really took off in a big fashion. So the biggest communities I built on my channel so far have been connected to Destiny, and that's Destiny 1 and 2, and then Warzone. Warzone's been fairly recent. I introduced the game here as it got released, and I had also some promotion for that with Modern Warfare Alpha and Beta prior to the Warzone release. There weren't any alphas and betas of Warzone, we just released, and then we were doing it for about 6 weeks every day. And I remember I was also doing it after a little while on my Xbox, and trying to think what I've done. Yeah, I did it also on PlayStation, but I think the initial streams were on Xbox because I wanted to try Mixer as another platform, which in fact backfired completely. It didn't work at all. Anyway, cutting story short, Warzone was also then reintroduced late in the year when I went back. I didn't stream it on my channel immediately. I kind of went back in order to polish up my skills and to get maybe a bit of a new community fully on board, because similar to Apex and PUBG, you really don't want to be playing those games with randoms at all times, because it's a game that requires tactics and strategies and comms and thinking, planning, execution, and just the very best tactical teams will be always winning. So that was the idea, and then it was extraordinary. In only a few weeks we immediately had a few dozen players who were coming in every single day, and I told them initially that I was not streaming at that point, but we bring everyone else in live online as the Twitch streams resume. I was on a short kind of seasonal break, and the community was built from nothing. It was myself and James Carter who were the first kind of everyday participants, and then we brought in Paphos and Spurs, and after them other people came in, and in no time we had 30 members of our regiment, and the everyday activity became our own social network. So we really couldn't wait to meet each other later in the day, from let's say 4 o'clock to about 8 o'clock p.m. and it became our hub for everything, social gathering, news, communication, activity, chats, talks about our own issues and everything in our local community. It almost became too personal, in fact, and I had some concerns recently, and therefore I'm not streaming Warzone at the moment, because it became a bit too exposed and too, how to put it, it had no difference between what we do in real life, as a group of friends or a group of family members, and therefore it just presented us with a very different type of environment, and a world that perhaps is not similar to all of our other online communities, certainly the communities I built. It became just very personal. We're all so closely bonded, and maybe it is connected to the nature of the game. It's about a 4-man squad, and if you are a person who served in the military, or if you've undergone any form of military training, you will know that those 4 buddies, they're just absolutely closer than anyone else on the planet, much closer than what it would be with their family members, because it's all about survival. It's all about needing to get from one point to another and get through it. So I was quite extraordinary. I mean, I have to say I'm fascinated by how quickly everyone bonded and how quickly everyone found themselves on the same frequency. But that experience, together with the one of Destiny and our community online, made my survival of the lockdown possible, because I've spent until this Saturday 22 hours a day indoors every single day. I've seen hardly any daylight for last 6 months, and been going out quite a lot during the summer months from about, let's say, mid-June to early October. But I had to adjust really to all that was happening, and me being in a high-risk category due to my health, I always want to make sure that I was first of all protecting my own life and then protecting others, my loved ones, my neighbors, and everybody around me, because I could be a character who does not have any symptoms but actually I'm carrying the virus, and I can therefore pass it on to somebody else. So it's been a very, very difficult time, but I have to tell you, I had never had a better, bigger, more communicative period to what I'd had during the last 12 months. It's been extraordinary. And as you could see, the messages keep coming in from people who I do not know personally, people who are members of our community, people sometimes who are just watching some of our streams on other platforms. They use playback, and they pop in with some curious questions which we all want to hear and answer, and that's truly wonderful, because online gaming and streaming and being able to connect with others had been fundamentally important in us managing everything through this kind of period of lockdown, because we not just acquired extra means of communication, we were able to bond, communicate, share our thoughts and views. In fact, we got even busier with our communications to what we would do otherwise. And I think Sam will certainly be interested to hear that similar to my Destiny community, the one in Warzone is very, very international. So listen to this. The members of a regiment come from the following countries: Germany, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Ukraine, North Macedonia, Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, of course Britain, that's England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, Luxembourg. The list just goes on and on. We have some friends in Pakistan, in Iran, we have some people from Morocco, we have people from Belgium, we have people from what's the other country? Monaco, San Marino, Poland, Czech Republic. It's just the vast majority of Europe is represented within our community. And equally with Destiny, we have people from New Zealand, from Australia, from Singapore, from Netherlands, from various parts of US, from South America. The list just goes on and on. Ireland I forgot to mention in both instances. So truly wonderful, closely bonded international communities which made our life and our world here during the pandemic absolutely worthwhile. And what connects us together is, first of all, our passion for video gaming. Secondly, it's the game itself. It's the universe, the world that this particular game, like Destiny or Warzone, or indeed The Division, is offering. And then it's the means to which we communicate, because we really talk about everything. And I guess my approach here, running a channel that is family friendly and all-inclusive and kind of very inviting, helped many people who otherwise would be a bit queasy and a bit, iffy about being seen live online, to feel completely relaxed and so personal. I mean, what I had in some of the Warzone streams was staggering in terms of how personal and personable some of the members actually had become. It's so interesting. You've heard exchanges between Spurs and Paphos. They never met in real life. They don't even know what they don't know each other in real life. They don't know what they look like. But it's the characters that came across through the online game activity and our chats that made those close bonds, and that's just a truly fascinating experience. I mean, I've been delighted, elated, and truly honored to have taken part, because it is a it's something completely new. It's a very original, innovative way through which people can meet and build their own connections. So like the colleagues from Microsoft indicated, a game like Stellaris, like The Division, like Warzone or Apex, they become a social network. And it's interesting because that social network could be multifaceted. It could be your own social network with your own friends and fans, like people you have on Facebook, or it can become like a Facebook group, with others joining eventually. And I'd just like to invite everyone in our community, and people who are maybe a bit apprehensive. You have lots of people who are just listeners. They never really say anything. They never write any messages. And in fact, I was one of those years back where, in fact, I'd go to highbrow lectures and symposiums, and then you'd have people who are top specialists in the field talking in a very educated way about a particular topic. And I rarely had any questions because I felt, well, everything said in there was so great, it was so full of knowledge. What could I do in order to contribute? But I think it's very important not to have that sort of attitude, because by asking questions and by raising issues, you're becoming fully integrated within that innovative field. And Twitch streams and the ones on YouTube are brand new. They've been around for about 6 years, and we really want to have a major input on their full development. We want a lot more to come, and we want everyone to be involved. But don't forget, if you're coming in, read the rules first. Be as civilized as possible and adhere to the rules. Do not come with statements which are full of profanities or content which could be seen as offensive. We do not really endorse any of that. We want everything to be as polite, as civilized as possible, and for everyone to feel happy, positive, upbeat, and fully supported, irrespective of where they come from, irrespective of whether they know anything about video gaming, and most importantly, it's not connected with somebody's experience and skill in Warzone Apex. It's all to do with the fact they're there to support our community effort. They talk, they connect, they're all there in order to chat and share some of that upbeat, positive, forward-thinking attitude. So thank you, Sam, for your question, and thank you for your feedback. I'm glad to see that you are building your own community, although, as I said, it's primarily based with the guys from the US. But if you want to really make it similar to mine, you can decide to stream on Twitch or YouTube, and you can also do several hubs attached to your channel. Like you could have your Reddit and Twitter and Discord and Facebook, and all of them need to be kind of connected, and then you will get lots of international viewers and community members popping in. It's very useful when you stream and when you have your announcements on Twitter, and then these are picked up by other streamers who are kind of introducing your stream and your work to their communities. Sometimes people pop in straight away, have a look. At other times they'll keep a mental note, and if the same streamer keeps retweeting various other future announcements of mine, then it's likely that they'll register the title, the name. And remember, if you're running a channel, you've got to have a title which is kind of instantly memorable. My problem is that with DRBMiller, which is so instantly recognizable, I can't really hide, I get people popping in Warzone and Apex or Destiny, and because they hear that we are streaming, I always read the rules first. So we are live on Twitch, make sure you're adhering to the family rules. And then 20 minutes later, the same guy pops up on my Twitch channel. Hi, how are you doing? I was in the game with you just a moment before. Oh, it's a great channel. I like this and that. Or you get some, oh, well, I really don't like your channel. It's too family friendly. I like swearing all the time. And well, fair enough, There's no swearing on my channel. And the channel is also moderated. But it's that degree of instant connection. So if you want to really branch out to other countries, if you want to make sure that your community is fully global, then that is the route that I personally would pursue. Alright, my friends, I think 2 hours of my podcast today is just about lengthy enough, and we had one big interruption already thanks to that Destiny reset, which is very annoying, and I do not appreciate it. But we talked a lot about my gaming activities, we talked about what other community members raised, and we described 2 major games that I'm very excited about, and the games I'm presently playing for the very first time on Xbox and PlayStation, and these 2 games are Empire of Sin and Yakuza. So I gave you a very good in-depth rundown on both the stats as well as the personal experience of these 2. And we connected with our friends. I think our friend Tyler was here with us earlier today, and then I connected also with Sam, who sent us questions about how the network of international gamers works on a Twitch channel. Right, so these are the news, these are the activities, this is all I have to say for today. I'll stream a game in a few moments. I have to decide whether it will be a PvP or PvE game, and I have several games to choose from. So I have Apex, which I think with the Chaos Theory season just ended at 5 o'clock. Then we have PUBG, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary. And then I have Fallout 3, the game that I've been having here as part of my Macbeth Festival, Microsoft Bethesda merger. So let me just think about what game to play, and then we'll get back live to you in about 5 minutes or so. So thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting both my channel and the podcast and our community, and thank you for being here with us today. If you have any questions, concerns, if you want to raise issues, if there's anything that you believe is incredibly important, then or even completely insignificant, make sure you send us a message. All the details are on my information page here on Twitch, and most people email me, and so just email, and then I'll be able to respond to you either by return or simply by discussing your question here live on my podcast. So thank you for your support, and we'll see you all a bit later, and take care.